Welcome to Ballot Battleground Nevada. I'm your host, Ben Marjat, a reporter at KRNV News 4 in Reno. I'm passionate about making politics in this critical battleground state more digestible to the average voter and pushing past the talking points to press politicians for answers. On this show, we take deep dives into the people, ideas, and debates shaping Silver State politics. In the 2026 midterms, Washoe County will once again have someone new running its elections. Andrew McDonald is the county's newish registrar of voters, the fourth person to hold that job since 2022. And it's not just turnover at the top. The entire department has changed over since the 2020 election. That's the environment he's stepping into now, with scrutiny and criticism of election officials as high as ever. But McDonald says he's in it for the long haul. He told the county manager he plans to stick around for at least 5 years, as long as the county commission keeps supporting him. And he's got some big goals, moving the registrar's office and warehouse to a bigger location, continuing to clean up the voter rolls, and bringing in new voting printers that leave a paper record for every ballot cast in person. So let's get into it. My conversation with Washoe County Registrar Andrew McDonald. Andrew McDonald, the man who runs elections in Washoe County, the registrar of voters, in studio this morning. Andrew, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
How glad are you that we don't have odd year elections in Nevada? During this, we're recording this a couple days before you guys all listen to it, but recorded just a couple days after Election Day 2025. Is it a relief that we don't have it here?
Yes, because in the off year, people think, what do you do? Yeah. There's so many things that we need to do, including going to the legislature, right? And enacting new laws that are coming down. And how does that mess with our processes and redoing processes, et cetera? So absolutely, this is the time to refine and get better for next year.
Absolutely. And we will definitely get into that as you now in office since earlier this year are making a number of changes, in part from this audit and part proactive things that you guys are doing. We'll get into all of that. But since this is the first time that we've had you in since taking over the role in, I believe it was February or March, tell our audience, who you are, your background, how you kind of got into election administration.
Sure. Yeah, so I started, first of all, I was born here in Reno, Nevada, St. Mary's. I didn't really live in Reno, but I'm from the region, kind of Loyalton, Portola, Truckee, lived in Carson City, lived in Fallon, Nevada. I've moved around a lot. And those are because of my stepdad built homes and kind of dragged us after that house was built around the small towns. But my roots are really here. My grandma had 9 kids, so definitely from the region. A lot of cousins, aunts, uncles live here.
Cool.
So went to Park Lane Mall for school clothes when I was a kid, when it was still around. So
that's a throwback. We were just doing something on the Red, and my colleague Elizabeth was like, I need Park Lane Mall video. I'm like, oh my gosh, only the real ones, the OGs know. But that's cool. And so you went to school to study elections and administration, or how'd you get into this field?
No, actually, I moved to San Diego around 19 years old to go to school. Ended up staying down there doing public service for 20 plus years, stayed down there 28 years in total. But I got into elections because I did 12 years as an IT group manager, overseeing 12 departments at the county of San Diego, IT work. And I got up one day and I'm like, I just don't feel the sense of purpose anymore. And so there was a position open as a chief of election systems at the county of San Diego. So I applied for it, and oh my gosh, did I get a sense of purpose at that point in time. And I love it. I really love the work, the purpose of voting, doing the people's work, if you will. So I got into it there and then became the assistant ROV in San Diego, 2 million active registered voters, almost the same size as the state of Nevada.
Wow.
And so, eventually I moved up here.
Yeah. So you're coming home, basically.
I'm coming home.
Finally,
yeah. That's why people ask me, like, why did you move back? It's really family. To re-engage in family. I've been gone 28 years. And so to get back into this community and actually be able to serve Washoe County and family, friends, and other voters, it's just great.
Yeah. You obviously are aware of the turnover that there has been in this position. I think the fourth ROV you are since 2022, I think the fifth since I've been covering Nevada politics.
Oh, yeah.
You know about all that. It's not news to you. you still took the job. How come?
Well, first of all, I came here not wanting to take an ROV job. I was very happy being the deputy and thought, I'll do 5-6 years and retire out of this position and be happy. Obviously, lots of things happened. We had numerous people take jobs within Washoe County that worked for us. They got promoted and left. Other people left on their own accord, et cetera. And I found myself in a leadership position, needing to lead a department that had suffered, as you mentioned, lots of people leaving. So sustainability and support for the department and the people that work there, they don't deserve to have leadership turnover that much. So I committed to, if I got the job, 5 years to be here. So that was my commitment to the county manager at the time.
Okay. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have you for at least 2 more election cycles.
As long as the commissioners will have me, I will be here, yes.
Okay, and you were chosen out of 41 candidates back in February. You were the interim for the 2024 general election as Carrie Ann Burgess was on that leave of absence. So you presided over the 2024 general election, and these elections coming up in 2025 will be the first where you're in that permanent role. Before we get into kind of all the changes and what might be different for 2025, we do have to ask, last week we were at the high card draw event. I imagine, dedicated Battleground Nevada listeners saw this, but for people who didn't know, there was a race out in Gerlach, way north of Reno, the general improvement district there. The race was tied, 67 votes, and you got to do something really cool, which is preside over this high card ceremony. How did this all come to be, and how did you want to go about doing this in a fair way?
Yeah, it's a unique experience. It's historical. It's very rare that a tie really happens. So it's one of those things where we realize, look, there is a tie. We need to break the tie. So we started looking at NRS, the Nevada Revised Statutes. We talked to the Secretary of State's office and said, what's the best way to do this? We can draw straws. We can do cards. We can do a coin flip. We kind of wanted to not so much drag it out, but make it a spectacle, because they too wanted to have Gerlach kind of be on the map and explain what it's about, that general improvement district. So they wanted to come down to Chambers and they wanted to participate in this. So for us, we wanted to do that coin flip. So the first person who gets to draw the card, we wanted to do the shuffle. So I did research on AI. How many times am I supposed to shuffle these deck of cards before it's randomized, right? So we did 8 shuffles. But the point is yes, is it very Nevada, of course, with the cards, the coins. But it is that way across the states.
Sure,
people think it's just a Nevada thing. It's not. But how much better is it to have a shuffle from the registrar of voters and have them pick the card and sign it, and they kept that card in their pocket? I thought that was pretty cool.
I was going to say, must have been a cool moment for you. It definitely was for me as kind of an elections nerd a little bit. And we had county employees that came down probably during the workday to witness this. And it was very cool. So if you didn't see that story, I'll probably link to it in the show notes so people can see it. But must have been a special moment for you. Do you keep the coin, right? Because the candidates keep the cards. There's got to be some piece of history that
they wanted the deck
Washoe
of cards,
County.
But in my mind, let me just explain why I wanted to keep it.
Yeah.
So they get the 2 cards. I signed their card, which I think they loved.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep the cards to prove that those 2 cards were missing, just like we would show ballots, right? So I can show that I've got that deck of cards and those 2 cards are missing.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it's, secure somewhere, but, you could do a little display at the county office or something.
Definitely an artifact. Yep.
Good stuff. Well, let's get into kind of your role and what you guys are trying to accomplish. What, you talked about this 5-year timeline. You've been here the better part of this year now in the permanent position. What do you want to accomplish as the registrar of voters in Washoe County?
A lot. There needs to be a maturity in the department that just hasn't really been there. Stability. The first thing I wanted to do when I took the job is hire, right? So we went through the general election with almost a 30% vacancy.
Wow.
So there's only 18, 19 full-time positions. 6 people were gone.
Jeez.
So I found myself as a deputy, and I just want to correct one thing you had mentioned earlier.
Sure.
They did not name me interim because Carrie still was the interim.
That's right. Yeah. I should have said, not interim, but acting or
I really wasn't even acting. I truly was just the deputy at that time. Either way. So one of the things I wanted to create was stability within the office, hire people that we needed to fill those vacancies. Part of the elections group audit was to fill 2 deputy positions. I was one. I didn't know I was going to even apply for the job, but I decided to apply. So get that done. Show that we can only scale out and extend out so much within the department, meaning we can't run mail ballots, we can't be scanning ballots, we can't be doing intake with the small amount of room that we have in our existing facility. Therefore, we need a new warehouse, we need a new headquarters. So that's something I'm actively working on right now with the county manager's office of obtaining and finding a new warehouse and location for headquarters. So we may be moving this year.
Wow.
In an upcoming election year. If it doesn't work out, we'll be moving at the end of about a year from now after the November election.
Within the county complex or somewhere else, wherever there's room?
No, it'd be somewhere else. We're
Okay.
looking for warehouses right now,
Yeah.
and we'd be building out a headquarters within that warehouse.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
What are the limitations of the space right now?
Our warehouse is about 13,500 feet. It's very small. Our existing headquarters is about 8,000 feet. So we're looking for a warehouse about 30,000 feet.
Wow.
So we can really scale out, and that would likely be the registrar voters' legacy for me, but for the next 10, 15 plus years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having been in that room many times on election night, certainly understand, especially, for people who are observing the election, there's like 3 or 4 chairs that can fit into the little cubby for observers.
Yeah.
The media row is, as cramped as ever. And so certainly seems like you need more space, especially too with now we're universal mail ballots here, as opposed to just plugging in hard drives. You have all of these mail ballots and the sorter that we got to see last year, and all that stuff takes up so much space.
It's really not fair for the observers in full transparency. We want to have an observer hall, if you will, right?
Wow.
Where they can walk down a hall with plenty of room with windows, and they can see into every single process down the line. And if I'll have it my way, and if I had the money, and I'm working on this, but it may be a phased approach where you turn all the way through that observer, and you can see every single angle of our process. That is the goal that I'm trying to provide.
To see it every step of the way. Yeah. And obviously transparency so critical now in this day and age. So that would be a good change for sure. Let's talk about the voter rolls. You guys just completed a round of cleaning up the voter rolls. It happens probably after every single election cycle, right? Why is that necessary? How many people were deemed now inactive as a result of this process, and what do people need to know?
Yeah, so recently, as of I think a day or so ago, we inactivated about 31,500 or so voters. Why do we do that? Well, that's because they basically either don't live here anymore, told us that they needed to, or we got a report from the Secretary of State from the ERIC system saying, hey, they've moved out of state or whatnot. There's lots of reasons. We send cards to folks, and if that card gets returned to us, then we take that action. So that's quite a few.
Yeah.
We went from 345,000 active registered voters to about 315,000 registered voters. And if you look at, since they hired me in office, that has been my number one priority, is cleaning up the voter rolls and ensuring that in the future elections, we do not have a ton of ballots going out undeliverable and coming back. That helps secure the election also.
And I just read a report from the Reno Gazette-Journal, their great politics reporter, Mark Robeson, who said, there's been a lot of friction between you and groups, or not you, but the office historically and groups about not responding to requests to, kick people off of the voter rolls and whatnot. But it sounds like from reading Mark's story that there's been some progress made on that front, and that group is pleased with how you guys are taking this on.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is maybe the challenges and the process of the challenges. We are still working with the Secretary of State's team, our legal team, to review, these challenges. But ultimately, yes, I think, just trying to be as transparent as possible about our processes, our procedures, and moving on. Yeah.
And then for voters who, are inactive, what do they need to do now?
So if you're inactive, that doesn't mean you can't vote in the next election. You'll need to come into office, either tell us that you still live here, file a new affidavit, or go in person during the election and update your record, and you'll be able to vote.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know. There will be some changes possibly for next year's elections. The big one, as people walk into the voting booth, we're used to seeing kind of this little machine, for lack of a better word, off to the side of the tablet where you make your choices. And historically, it's printed out this little receipt, for lack of a better term. You want to change that. How come?
The voters have been wanting paper ballots. It's kind of going back to the old way in a way, right? So what you were referring to is the VVPAT. It's the Voter Verified Audit Paper Trail. And that's that machine that, lights up. You're kind of trying to read who you voted for quickly. It's not even 12-point font. It's not ADA, in my book, really compatible, even though it is from the Secretary of State's point of view. But the point we're trying to do is give the voters what they want. And they want a full-length, tangible ballot in their hands and be able to review every single contest that they voted for and then cast that ballot at the vote centers themselves. And that's what I'm trying to give them.
Gotcha. So voters in the same way will still make their selections on the vertical tablet that we're used to seeing. Then what happens?
Yeah. So once they do that, it's really the output. Instead of it going through the VVPAT, it's going to be a LaserJet printer that's going to print out both sides if it's a long ballot, both sides, and it's going to be pre-marked based on the selections they chose. The oval will be filled in with that ink, and then they'll take it over, get into a hopefully not a long line. It takes about 5 seconds to actually cast their ballot.
Okay.
They can cast it any which way, feet forward or backwards, upside down, whatnot. And it will take about 5 seconds to actually get in there, and it'll place that piece of paper in a secure storage facility.
Gotcha. And so for people out there who are, critics, that when they are referring to paper ballots, I just want to kind of clarify for people, there are some folks out there that would want everything to be on paper, where the voter's actually marking their choices like it would be a mail ballot that you fill out at home or whatever. So this is not exactly that, but it's maybe a step towards that. It's, I don't know, I kind of see it like a hybrid, right? It's the machine and it's still printing out your paper ballot.
Yeah, it's not ballot on demand where we'd be printing a specific ballot as you queue in line and you'd take a pencil or not a pencil, hopefully, but a ballpoint pen and fill it out and then cast it into a ballot container.
Yeah.
This is, though, exactly the same that you would get in the mail ballot. It's the same exact ballot. It's going to be the same thickness of paper, the same contest. You're going to vote on the same precinct that you should have been voting on. So the only difference is once you mark it on screen, when it prints, it'll just be perfectly ovaled for you instead of you having to oval it. Yeah.
Right. And that's where all the issues with full paper ballots would come from, as people who kind of draw outside the circles a little bit, or mark an X through it or a line or something, or leave things blank. And
it helps with adjudication. It's perfect at that point in time, which means it's going to run through the scanner perfectly. We have to duplicate ballots that are ripped, torn. Kids get crayons and scatter crayons all over.
Imagine.
People spill coffee. So we really want people to take care of their ballot too, right? And so at the vote center, it's quick because it's already a clean, perfect ballot. But at home, mail ballots, they do get soiled, right? So they come back, and we do have to duplicate and do voter intent.
Yeah. All right. Toddler parents, and I'm telling this to myself, don't leave your ballot out on a low table, because I could only imagine it's all colored, every single crayon that my son has.
Have a plan. Do your research early and get that mail ballot in as soon as possible. It helps us, and it helps you make sure that your votes count.
Those machines still kind of early in the process, right? What needs to happen between now and the primary election in June in order for those machines to be up and running?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So one of the things is the Board of County Commissioners has to approve this, right? So a couple things. Dominion was recently acquired by Liberty Vote. So I'm having to go through our PNC process of changing the name, right?
Yeah.
At this point in time. But our contract too is up for is expiring.
Okay.
So by December of this year, that contract expires. So I'm doing two things. I'm asking for a contract extension so we can extend the contract. Then I'm also asking the board to give me about $1.8 million to procure this equipment. We have it in our CIP budget, our capital improvement plan budget, but they have to approve it since it's over $300,000. So if they approve it on November 18th of this month, then we will get going right away to procure that equipment. It's so much equipment. It's about 110 pallets. We barely have enough to put it in our existing warehouse. Wow. Therefore, that's why another reason we need a new warehouse because of this equipment too.
If that is approved, and I guess I'll back it up. You say $1.8 million, obviously a large, significant expense. You think it is worth it? Why is this so important to you?
Yeah, it's worth it because that's what the voters want. It's not so much what I want. It actually makes our processes much more difficult.
Really? How come?
Because once those ballots are cast into that machine, I have to account for all those paper ballots, right? I have to ensure that they're boxed, that they're sealed, that they're signed off on, that they're going to come back to our facility and be racked, just like a library book, that we got all those ballots from every single early vote location. And if we have early voting for 14 days, I'm going to have at least minimum 14 boxes and be able to store that somewhere and account for each box. Even if there's, for some reason, nobody went to that vote center that day, I want that empty box coming back to me so I know that there's no ballots that didn't get picked up that day. But yes, it's a lot more accountability on our part to do this, but is it the right thing for the voter? Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay. What else is going to be changing for the voter in 2025? The one that comes to mind for me is, and I think you remember kind of, I don't know if controversy is the right word, but it may be confusion or just questions that arose when people started getting their real mail ballot before they even had their sample ballot in their mailbox. That's going to be changed.
Yeah. I can't remember the exact bill. I apologize.
That's okay. AB 148 is
you might
sound
have
right?
it there.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yes, our goal is always to get the sample ballot booklet out first. Sounds like something easy to do, but actually the ballot needs to be done prior to the sample ballot, because the ballot, the insert, if you will, not the real ballot, but a copy of it has to be inserted to each sample ballot booklet. So we're waiting on the ballot to get done, and then we're also waiting on any challenges that may go in front of a judge. So we're on a very, very tight timeline. And it's not as simple as people think. I did 19 iterations of that sample ballot before we finalized it to make sure there was zero mistakes. Wow. Nobody was left off the ballot. Every office was perfect. Every I and T was dotted perfectly. So, and that was just one generic sample ballot booklet. Now for the upcoming primary, we have a Republican sample ballot booklet, right? We have a Democrat ballot booklet. We have an NP. So now I got multiple iterations I need to do on top of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Candidate filing starts pretty soon, right?
Yeah.
We're already gearing up.
So judicial candidate filing starts in January, non-judicial coming in March.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. It's sooner. It's coming up fast, you know.
Yeah.
Only got a couple more podcasts until we're in full-on election mode. We do have to ask about a recent op-ed from Commissioner Clara Andriola. We already talked about the voter rolls a little bit, but specifically she referenced a pilot program that's going to, I think, work on cleaning up the voter rolls. Additionally, I'll read a quote from that op-ed that she wrote in the Reno Gazette-Journal. It says, "The anxiety is real. Each recent election has brought accusations of tampering. Many of the worries are valid. The election integrity challenge is also real. Today's election departments are more automated than ever." And she's saying this pilot program that is, I don't know what stage exactly, that is coming, is going to help address that. So tell me about that.
Yeah, there's different viewpoints from different people. I fully believe that our voter rolls have integrity, transparency already, and credibility. That's why we follow NRS and do all the things that we need to do: inactivations, cancellations, sending out official mail to voters. Sometimes it doesn't happen as fast as people want it to happen, but that is the law, and we follow the law, right? So this pilot project that she's referring to, and she approached me in regards to doing this, it's a recommendation of hers. It's really to just even be more transparent. It's not necessarily going to help the voter rolls as it relates to inactivations, cancellations. It's really going to be more or less a snapshot of Washoe County data, because now it's centralized at the state top-down system.
Right.
Where prior it was decentralized. We owned our voter registration system like in-house, right?
Yeah.
So now that it's decentralized, we're going to take a copy of that data, and we're going to more or less give certain fields to the public to say, if you want to find yourself and ensure that you're on the roll, you can do so. We're going to hash it, and it gets kind of technical, but basically ensure that it has authenticity and that it has transparency. So if the state's saying, oh, I've got 30,000 more voters on the roll, we're going to say, no, you don't, because it doesn't match our numbers, right? So it's just a way for the public to say, these numbers should match. We're going to prove that it matches, and we're going to show, like when we do bulk inactivation, so that 31,500 that just happened, those bigger numbers like that, we're going to explain, what happened. We're going to have kind of a timeline, a trail, so that voters can feel very confident that we're taking care of the rolls.
When does that need county commission approval as well because of the costs incurred there, or what needs to happen for this pilot to be enacted?
No, it's low cost. I mean, county commissioner is usually 300,000 and above. This right now is cost nothing. It's been costing some staff time to have some meetings with the Secretary of State. We do have a few ambassadors from the CIS team on there, just kind of looking over, ensuring that we have security, nailed down. But we are still, unfortunately, in the infancy stages of this. My goal is to have something completed by the end of this calendar year, or early, 2026. But I want to make sure that it has validity, it has credibility. I don't want to put out a bad product and then just be, torn apart because it doesn't have integrity. So I'm taking a little bit more time, being a little bit more cautious before we finish out this project.
The undercurrent of, some of our conversation today, but also the last 4 or 5 years in elections, is that there seems to be there is a gap between election officials say the system is secure and what the public's confidence in our election system. When your time is all said and done here at the ROV's office in however many years, do you hope that gap is closed? And it sounds like you're trying to do everything you can to close that gap.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be any ROV/clerk's responsibility to ensure that we have as much transparency for the public into the process. Look, we've got 724 cameras that run already in our existing facility. We have observer room, even though it's small. I'm trying to build that out if we do get a new warehouse to have more visibility into the process. We have chain of custody, but there's always more that we can do, and we're trying to do more. We're trying to prove to the public we're not hiding anything here. We are really just counting the votes and having the will of the people done.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew McDonald, the registrar of voters in Washoe County. A lot of important work to be doing. Just because it's an off year doesn't mean that they're not working hard trying to gear up for only 2 elections next year instead of the 3 that we had last year, but still going to be a heavy lift and a big burden. Some major races. We, of course, will get into all of the contests and the elections later on in the show, but Andrew, thank you so much for coming by. We appreciate getting some of your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me here, and I'd love to do it again whenever you're ready.
We will have you back if you can find the time for us right before an election.
Thank you, sir.
If you made it to the end, I really appreciate it. If you have guest ideas, episode ideas, questions, comments, compliments, concerns, anything at all, feel free to shoot me an email. I do want to hear from you. It's bjmarjat@sbgtv.com, and put ballot Battleground Nevada in the subject line. And if you have a moment, please leave a rating and a review. That helps the podcast show up higher in searches so more people can discover Ballot Battleground Nevada. Thanks for listening.